I see a calmness about him, and I think it's something that a lot of players don't understand. I think so. I think the fans, it's very hard for the fans to really understand what I'm saying, because most players don't get it.
There's a gym in Los Angeles that empties out around midnight. Most nights, it's just one man and a rack of basketballs, and the only sound is the rhythm of a ball hitting hardwood, over and over, until it stops meaning anything except muscle memory. Kobe Bryant spent decades in rooms like this. He knew every version of obsession there was. So when people ask what he saw in Stephen Curry, what made him stop, watch closely, and say something nobody expected, you have to understand. Kobe wasn't looking at the shot. He'd seen 1,000 jump shots. He was looking for something underneath it. And what he found wasn't the range. It wasn't the release, or the footwork, or the highlight reel logo threes that made broadcasters lose their minds. Kobe named it directly. Calmness. Not as a compliment, as a warning. Because here's the thing about calmness in a sport built on chaos, it's terrifying to guard. A defense can prepare for speed. It can prepare for power, for size, for a killer who wants to hurt you. What it cannot prepare for is a man who looks like he's playing at 80% while the building is coming apart around him. That mismatch between what the moment demands and what Curry appears to be giving is where defenses go to die. You send a double team expecting panic. There is no panic. You force a switch expecting hesitation. There is no hesitation. The defense is reacting to a fire, and the man in front of them is standing in the eye of it, untouched. Kobe recognized this because he had lived on the opposite end of the same coin. His weapon was fury. Visible, violent, unmistakable fury, the kind that made him stare down defenders and dare them to try again. For years, people assumed that fire was the point. That intensity itself was the skill. But Kobe knew better than anyone that fury was just the surface. Underneath it was the same thing Curry had, thousands of repetitions, absorbed so deeply into the body that decision-making disappeared. When you've made a shot 10,000 times in an empty gym, making it again in front of 20,000 screaming strangers isn't brave. It's just Tuesday. Kobe expressed that certainty as rage. Curry expressed it as peace. Two men, wildly different temperaments, built from the exact same foundation, and Kobe was one of the only people alive who could see straight through the disguise. Now follow where that calmness actually took him. Follow it to a single season, one that still doesn't feel real when you say the number out loud. 402 three-pointers. Not a career total, 1 year. A number so far outside anything the league had ever produced that the natural response was disbelief, then outrage, then, finally, silence, because there was nothing left to argue. The MVP vote that followed wasn't close. It was unanimous. Every single voter, in a league built on disagreement, agreed on one thing. This was different. This wasn't a hot streak. This was a redefinition of what winning basketball could look like, and it forced every front office, every coach, every rising 13-year-old with a rebounding net in the driveway to rebuild their entire understanding of the game around a skinny guard who never looked like he was trying that hard. But here's where the story could have gone wrong. This is the part with real tension in it. Because greatness that big usually curdles into something uglier. Usually the man at the center starts believing the myth about himself, starts needing the ball, needs the credit, needs to be the whole story. That's the moment legacies get complicated. That's where dynasties quietly start to rot from the inside. Curry didn't take that path. When Kevin Durant arrived, arguably the most gifted scorer of his generation, Curry had every justification to protect his turf. Instead, he did something almost nobody at his level had done before. He stepped back. He took fewer shots. He let another man become the most unstoppable offensive weapon on his own team, in his own building, in front of his own fans. And he did it without a single public complaint, without a hint of resentment leaking into a press conference. People called it sacrifice. Kobe, watching from a distance, called it something else. Confirmation. Because only a man who is genuinely, bone-deep unbothered by ego can hand away the spotlight and not flinch. That wasn't humility performed for cameras. That was the calmness, again, just wearing a different jersey. Then came the test nobody built. The one season that stripped everything away and left Curry alone with the truth. 2020, going into 2021. No Durant, no championship pedigree surrounding him. And then, Partway through, no Klay Thompson either. The other half of the greatest shooting partnership basketball had ever seen, gone for the year. Suddenly there was no dynasty left to hide inside. No system of interchangeable weapons to share the burden. Just one man, on a team that had no business competing, carrying an offense that opposing coaches could game plan for an entire week in advance and still not stop. And he didn't collapse. He didn't get rattled by the absence of everything that used to make his job easier. He simply kept shooting the same shot, at the same rhythm, with the same terrifying stillness, night after night, as if the dynasty crumbling around him was somebody else's problem. That season is the answer to the question people love to ask about superstars: who are you when the help disappears? Curry's answer was, exactly who I already was. Nothing changed, because the calmness was never borrowed from his teammates. It was never conditional on circumstance. It lived in him the whole time. Which brings the story to the number that gets repeated so often it's lost its power to shock anyone. 4,300 made three-pointers and counting. People treat it as a stat, a trophy case entry, a line on a Hall of Fame plaque. But that number was never really the point. It's the residue. It's what's left behind after thousands of nights in empty gyms, after refusing to panic in front of a screaming crowd, after handing the spotlight to someone else and not blinking, after holding a franchise together with nothing but nerve when everyone around him disappeared. The three-point record isn't the story. It's the evidence. And that's exactly why Kobe Bryant, a man who measured greatness by fire, who built an entire identity on visible intensity, looked at a soft-spoken guard who barely raised his voice and recognized a kindred spirit instead of an opposite. Because he knew what real preparation looks like from the inside. He knew fury was never the requirement. Certainty was. And once you've built that kind of certainty, it doesn't matter whether it comes out as rage or as calm. No defense in basketball has ever solved it. And maybe none ever will.